A lot of people still have this lack of belief in our new local currency, and trust you me, it's here to stay.
Yeah.
What just needs to change is your negative mindset to always thinking negative about our country and our local currency,
Yeah.
which, truthfully said, has remained very stable ever since its introduction. I
Yeah.
think what we need to focus on, the keyword focus on, is how we are going to adapt and work with what's there to make sure that our families, our businesses, and
True
our
story.
lives are sustained.
True
We
story.
cannot keep talking about everything else because remember, the sunlight is out for everybody.
Yes, it
The
is.
zig is out for all Zimbabweans.
All
So if you are
Zimbabwe.
in business,
It's
you
for you.
must be trying to hustle, work hard, so you can get as much zig as possible so that you can be able to pay for a lot of things that you want.
True story. Even President Ruto, the president from Kenya, in his address when he was officially opening the ZITF, he did mention, he's like, come on, Zimbabweans, have confidence in this currency because it's not only backed by gold, but by all the minerals that we have in this country. And
True.
we are rich in those minerals. So
Yeah.
the more confidence we have in it, I'm sure the sooner we'll be able to trade with it.
I can guarantee all those Zimbabweans who are doubting what was introduced, guys, it's a matter of time until you're going to see the true benefits of having our own strong currency. And it's a pity because of the past. We are still living in the past. But now we are living in this modern time where you know what, whether you like it or not, you like this party or not, there is progress happening in the country.
True.
And it's beneficial for all of us. So if you're going to be the only negative person who has a lot of negativity to say, I can guarantee you a year from now, you're going to be behind where you could have utilized immediately this new currency and the positive change that this country is going to be experiencing.
Yeah.
So let's be positive people. I
True
always
story.
tell people, and the pulsers, I know they're very positive. A positive mind will get you positive results. But if we're always negative, whatever is introduced, remember, this is an open playground for everybody. Everybody is experiencing the same thing. But in this country, there are those who adapt quickly and play borari ripo. And then there are those who will murmur and complain for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whilst others are enjoying the quick adaptation of what's happening now.
Yeah.
So let's not be negative Zimbabweans. Let's embrace the new change. Let's see what we can do to make sure that we're working hard. We are doing what we can do, to become a better person and better businesses in this current environment.
0719 is the WhatsApp number to get in touch with us on Capital 100.4 FM. You are tuned into the Pulse, and the segment between 12 and 1 o'clock is called Hustle Hard with George Billionaire. We've got about 19 minutes left before we can shut this down. We've spoken about this topic before, but I feel today we're going to take it up a notch, and it's on mentorship, right? I think right at the very beginning, when we started Hustle Hard, you took us through a series of lessons and things that we should consider if we want to be successful. Besides giving us a good library to read from, you also gave us, insight on why having a mentor is important.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it is correct to say that you, as George Billionaire, coming through every Monday to speak to the masses and myself on Hustle Hard, and I hear your voice at the back of my head before I make a decision. Does that make you a mentor? Does your voice then, that speaks to me as a voice of reasoning, does that make you my mentor in that state?
So a mentor is somebody who has a specific level of wisdom and knowledge that he imparts to people to change and transform their lives. So mentorship basically is transforming a mindset of an individual so that they become a better version of themselves than they already are. So a mentor and a coach are very closely related because a coach is somebody who wants to push you to become the best version.
Right.
He'll keep telling you, go do another lap, go work another hour. And you don't want to, because you're in your comfort zone. But a coach and a mentor is somebody who sees the potential you have in you. And if you are wise enough to be able to say, listen, I have potential, but I need somebody to unlock me and make me become the better version that I'm supposed to become. And I'll tell you simply, I'll take my life as an example. Now, I have a lot of mentors, Becky. It doesn't mean that one person is your mentor. There are so many facets in life that all of us experience and face. And you can never be great in every facet. There's marriage, there's family, there's business, there's tech, there's so many things in life that we're always going to face. But to a true individual who is going to become a great person is somebody who always is hungry to learn more and understand how better they can make themselves become. When I started my journey with Pro-M, I was not a born entrepreneur. I was not somebody who knew how to run a business. But from the books I read, Think and Grow Rich, how to get from where you are to where you want to be, you know, Robert Kiyosaki and all these guys made it clear that for them to be where they are, they learned from specific individuals. They surrounded themselves with mentors, people who had seen what they haven't seen, and they gave that wisdom to them. People who experienced failure, but what they did is to come back and pour and say, listen, where you are, and I'll never forget, Dr. Chandiwana and Dr. Philip Jango telling me how they said, George, you remind me of a younger version of me and how I started. But I didn't have, this privilege to meet so many people like you are now, because this is what's going to make you become successful quicker, because you are surrounded by successful people. You have, made it to yourself, and this is the thing with our generation. Our current generation, Becky, are full of I know. They don't think they need the generation that's gone before us.
You can't tell them nothing.
You see, they think they know everything. They think they can Google, they can YouTube, they can read a book. But there are some practical lessons that you will learn from these guys whilst they are still there that can actually change the trajectory of your life and not do foolish, silly things. Our generation is so focused on looking good, buying all these nice designer clothes, buying the most expensive cars, looking good to the public, but they don't have something that is able to sustain them 5 years down the line. They think success is like a microwave solution, 2 minutes, ding, and they think that's it. But true businesses and true entrepreneurs live the long game. They have the long focus. They know that, when they make money, and I used to be one of them until I was surrounded by a group of seasoned people. And I've always said to some of my friends, I've got a couple. I can, on one hand, I can, I've got 5 friends my age. But other than that, my association is directly with people who I look up to, people who have done what I would want to do. And there's so many people now who are looking at role models, which are people who you cannot even understand how they make money. You cannot understand how they did what they did. There's no proof of concept of how they became rich overnight.
Do we need the proof?
I think it's important because every story goes from somewhere to somewhere. You understand? You cannot just wake up and be without a proper story of how things happened.
Okay.
To the people that I look up to, you understand that I'm putting such bag parod, wakadai, then he met Ningi. Everybody has a story. And that is the key thing that brings true long success. But people who get rich quick, who, got a tender and they made money, those people 4 or 5 years down the line, they won't be there. They'll look good for a season. But those are the wrong role models that our current generation is looking up to. And that's not it. So for me, I deliberately chose seasoned people. And all of them have stories. And they don't want any money from you.
Right.
They are more than willing. And the young generation, there are so many seasoned CEOs here in the country. And some of them have succeeded, have failed. But one thing is true. They are willing to share this information of where they went wrong, what they did. When you get your first $1 million, 100,000, 10,000, don't go and buy those things that you see which you think are important now. Because our generation want to look good immediately.
Of course.
But 10 years down the line, I didn't need that expensive watch. I didn't need that expensive car. I needed to make sure my stocks are good. I'm building something that lasts longer than me. So because I deliberately did that, it changed my mindset. So a mentor, Becky K, is somebody who changes the way you think. Uriwe Becky wakaona mari izvozvi. And I always say this: money amplifies the true character, the true
It
Becky.
doesn't change nobody.
It doesn't.
It
Saka
just
chinhu chiya
amplifies who you
chinhu
really are.
chawaigara uchida kuita chaiya once waane mari ka
Mirekani.
auudzike.
Mati kudini.
Yeah, because now you see Becky likes this, and but when you have a mentor, these are people who can tell you, no,
Calm down.
don't do this. Even in 100,000, rara, sleep, be okay where you are.
How do I
Focus.
I have 100,000 in my account.
And there's so many people who we've spoken about this, who won the lotto, $1 million, and 7 months down the line, munhu wese waringona aringoda kupa wongodai but hana focus of building something, because those opportunities, munhu wese who is listening to me today akambobata mari yakawanda, but what they did with it was lack of focus. Wakavhunduka. And mari haidi munhu wepurpose, marinoda munhu ari content,
True story.
focused, who can say, listen, this is what I want to do. I always tell people at my GB mentorship class,
Right.
if you had $1 million, what would you do?
I remember that there was an exercise that you made us do, where you were like to the cent. That's
right.
To the last.
So imagine right now, wakabata 10,000. What are you gonna do? You always have to be prepared for what you want to do. And I believe that God gives you the desires of your hearts.
Yes, He
but
does.
As long as you haven't written it down yet and planned for it,
what is He giving you?
mari yakauya unozosvika kuti handine 10,000 ndasarwa ne4. What happened? You can't even trace what you did. And some of my mentors are very key. Everything is written down to the T.
Do they follow up? Because I remember the last time when we spoke about mentors, we did differentiate them and say they fall in different categories. There's the mentors, there's the teacher, there's the coach, and then there's I forgot the other one. But you were saying they're not the type of people who are always going to be on the phone with you. That's why I say that's a coach's business. But a mentor, you said success leaves clues.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
With a mentor, you are not like really saying, let me sit down with you, let me have coffee with you. You are basically watching their live.
That's right.
Or reading a book that they wrote, and then you are learning from them. So with your mentors, how often do they check in on you? Because I know you are, in good books with most of your mentors. You actually sit down and talk with them. How often do you have meetings or checkups with your close mentors?
So the thing with mentorship, understand, the mentee benefits more from the mentor, right? So as the mentee, it's your onus to make sure that you chase for what you want. Now, I'll tell you that I always ask my mentors for lunch. They're very busy people. But every now and then, I always ask them for lunch. And let me tell people a very simple secret, which will make you get a mentor for absolutely free. If you see somebody, Becky K, who is an amazing MC, this, that, and the other, and you want to learn something from her, go and buy a gift. Ask her for lunch and give her that gift, and then ask intelligent questions. Now, this is a strategy that I have used many times.
Say it.
And this will cause those mentors to see you differently from every other person.
When you ask intelligent questions,
Because my questions, it's good to understand that, okay, Becky has already spoke about her story. You've researched about Becky K. You've watched all the videos, the interviews. Becky, so tell me, I remember there's a time you went to South Africa and you were doing people's nails. What had you gone through at that time? Zvinoratidza kuti uneka research kekuziva munhu uyu rather than just the general audience. And when you know specific things about somebody, that person will feel like you know them, and they are going
to. Starting from scratch.
You can't start. George, how did you start Pro Air?
So you haven't watched one video.
You understand.
You haven't listened to anything about me. So I'm not your mentor.
That's right.
I'm not the one for you. I believe that.
So when you do the extra and you know a little bit of information about this person and what they did and what they accomplished and how they felt and this will make that person feel like, hey, even when you're sharing that story, it brings back good memories, and you're like, oh, I remember this how I started in ETC. And you immediately gain a mentor absolutely for free. Because number one, you're just not asking questions about something. You've come with a gift, right? I remember one of my mentees on my birthday bought a portrait of me, and I have it framed at my house.
Nice.
And because of that, it opened a door for him that nobody else has ever had, because he understands the principle. And it's one of the topics I spoke about. It's like, I heard you talking about this, and I cannot come. Even in the Bible, you don't go to a man of God, a president,
Empty-handed.
an important person, empty-handed.
It's a
You
principle.
always go with something that shows you honor that person. And when you do that, you automatically can even buy friendship. A gift given in private, Proverbs will tell you, creates a relationship, and it does a lot of things. So when you do that, you can gain a mentor. They can be able to speak to you, to mentor you, to guide you. And a lot of people don't want that. Unfortunately, it's the old school method of actually, but I can tell you it's the most beneficial one and efficient, because people don't want to sit and ask. I remember with Philip Mataranyika, the founder of Nyaradzo.
Oh yeah.
I had to drive 180 k's to where he is, at his farm where he stays. And imagine this: somebody says, no, if you want to see me, come over. And that's 200 k's. That's 400 kilometers. But the knowledge and wisdom that I got, and I've done this so many times with different mentors, from somebody who you've looked up to.
How do I know that this is the person that I want to get information from? Because everybody looks good on the outside. Like you mentioned, there are those who have no story behind their success, but they're successful. They probably want a tender, but they don't have the capacity to maintain the tender or the funds that come from the tender. And then 5-6 years down the line, munhu hapasisina, business hapasisina, tender racho nawo futi zvakazongopera zvakadaro. How do I know that this is the person that I want to get information from?
Yeah. So Becky, I'll ask you a simple question. On social media, you follow people for specific reasons.
Absolutely.
Every single person you follow, there's something about that person that had a relation to you, that you're like, I like the way this person dresses. I like the way this guy, I like how she's a wife. I like this pastor. I like this. So there's always something in you that causes you to follow somebody.
So it must resonate with what I'm doing.
You only follow people who have something that's similar to you.
Okay.
It's either their belief system, the way they uphold themselves, the lifestyle they're living in, etc. So it's up to you, depending on what you see in somebody. And for me, I've seen the people that I follow, that they've gone the long haul. They have fought many battles. They have failed. They have done so much. And I have a lot to learn from them. And Raganakira mentorship, when you go and sit with successful people, we always say here, success leaves clues. I promise you, there's a time I got a little bit of money, and I could have bought the latest car. But because I was sat down by 2-3 mentors, and they told me, relax, do this, invest back into the business.
Right.
Pay yourself later. Right now, let's focus on growing Pro Air. But Kunevangwe, they don't have those type of people. And those, a mentor is somebody who's blunt, who tells you what you don't want to do, but it's important that you do it because you think you've made it. And because of that, I am where I am today because of the sum total result of people that I have listened to. Now I say to people, whoever you give your ear to, you give your heart to. Saka vazhinji vedu, we get advice from people who have not been successful in a specific trade, and then later also now you failed. But people who will tell you, hi, I've got $50,000, what do you think I should do? They will tell you, no, get stock, invest this and that, and push on, making your product or service easily accessible and more convenient to the end user. Somebody who your close friend will tell you, no, tenga chibora chinyu, buy a new car, get this, buy the latest, this, that, you can't.
You can't self-gratify.
But as an entrepreneur and as somebody who wants the long game, live simple. Drive it. You don't know which car I came with, but I still arrived.
Yes.
But the fast life will want you to look good.
Come with
yet
the jalopy, my guys.
You haven't arrived where you should be doing that,
Yeah.
So mentors have really told me that, George, the type of car has to resonate to a certain percentage of your net worth. Live simply. Real money does not make noise. If you hear people who are still pop all over, when they arrive, they want to be felt.
Question mark.
No, there's something wrong. But real money is humble, quiet, less speaking. And they're not trying to show off. They're not trying to look too, extravagant in front of everybody.
Yeah.
So all those lessons I have learned, and it's important for people to understand we are not in any competition in life.
Mm-hmm.
We all have our own journeys,
Mm-hmm.
but our lack of mentorship is going to
Is
stunt
what's
our growth.
all right.
Let's not get this mentality that do this day when at this person, there's nothing to learn. But trust you me, there are friends of mine who've asked my dad a question. Imagine, I've known my dad all my life,
Right?
and some wisdom came up, and I was like, how do you?
Dara.
But that's because you're not asking those questions because you're too familiar with certain people. When you're too familiar with people, you lose a lot.
It's like you were in my mind right now because the next question as we round up was mentors are humans. I'm going to take things with the pinch of salt.
Yeah.
Because maybe my mentor is good at one thing and terrible at another. How do I draw the line?
You know, I've always said there's so many mentors of mine where people say, hey, this person is like this and like that and like that. Let me tell you somebody who is listening who judges people by the way they act, but you don't look at the good side in people.
Okay.
I always say, take the good that you want. There's no perfect individual who lives on earth who is perfect. None. Right? Jesus himself had disciples who were around him, right? And they were not all perfect, get it correctly, even the closest ones, but there were things to learn from those individuals which impacted him, you, me to become a better person. Right. So when you're looking for a mentor, go after what you want. Becky is a great speaker. George is a great at this. This ultimately it will make you become a sum total result of a person who is better than what you were before you actually interacted and applied what you learned from those people.
Absolutely amazing. And it is exactly 1 o'clock on the dot on Capital 100.4 FM. We get into the news, and when we come back, it will be time for lunchtime recharge. I can't wait to hear from you. Stick